Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Sorry Not Sorry. And today Hirzi is not with us because he is too busy. Okay, so instead we have somebody else replacing him. We have Joe here from Political Proof.
Hello guys.
And we also have an actual real lawyer here today with us today, and this is Kate from
Hi.
Link Law.
What's up?
Yay. Okay, so trigger warning.
Yes.
Right? Because nowadays people are very sensitive. Okay, so trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. For those of you who are scared of words, okay, I'm going to use a word now, okay? Go away if you cannot deal with it, okay? Because today's topic is a very heavy one. We are going to be talking about rape. Because recently, why?
There's been a number of cases, really high-profile cases involving sexual assault. Right. So I think the most prominent one is Ian Fang, who has been convicted of having sex with a minor. Right. And I think the other case is Mr. Left's case. Yes.
Left Profilo. I keep calling him that. Left
Panilov. Panilov.
We're
yeah,
probably
I think so.
pronouncing it wrong.
Yes.
It's like a Russian thing to it. Yeah.
Yes. I think he was recently convicted of 4 counts of, I believe, it's sexual assault, outrage of modesty, and also rape.
Yes.
I think so.
Four counts.
Yeah.
4 counts.
I mean,
right?
outside of this being like very high profile cases, I think what I would find interesting is to find out maybe some of the processes of the law
Yeah.
here, because I mean when we first found out the two cases that you brought up, a lot of the people were like, how come the sentencing was so
that's
different?
the number
right?
one question, right? Because for Left, his sentencing was like 11 years, and he also will get caned, right? And then like for Ian Fang, it was like 40 months, no caning, right?
Yeah.
The difference in sentence, everyone's like, hey, why is Ian Fang not being caned? Yeah. Okay, but let's talk about what happened first, okay, with like both cases lah. Then like people can, for those of you who are living in a cave, don't know what happened, we'll do a short little summary of what happened. So okay, I think I will go and relate the story. If I missed out anything, let me know. Okay, so Ian Fang got to know this girl. I think it is at some event or something. I cannot remember, like, is it at the modeling school or something? Okay, so this girl is a student at some kind of modeling or acting school that is for kids.
Acting teacher at a child modeling school.
Yeah, child modeling school, which is honestly, okay, a breeding place for pedophiles to apply to work at, honestly lah, because the children there are like what? Like 6 to 16, that's what I remember, right? It's like every pedophile's dream I will apply to be a janitor there, hello, right? And then these girls are probably like, the people there are probably good looking and like vain, right? Because they want to be models or actresses also. So it's like, it's very scary. Oh my God, do not enroll your kids in these kind of places. Okay, maybe sometimes it's safe. But I think
but
they should
sometimes-
hire the only female teachers.
That's correct.
They usually will have practices in place to help protect the kids.
Yeah, like
also
CCTV
lah.
everywhere, right? Okay, but then again, Ian Fang's case, he got to know her outside of the school also, I think. They said met at some event, right? And I think, 好像是啊.
No, just read this.
Yeah.
He was an acting teacher at child modeling school.
Oh, then the
and the Pan entertainment event.
lah. So maybe it's not during the school. But the fact that he is a teacher at the school probably symbolizes that he does know her age. So he cannot do this whole, I didn't know how young she is. And she is 15 years old. And they had sex like multiple times, but it is consensual. Like,
Yes.
I think it's stated in the trial that it's consensual lah, which is like, somehow it's not stated in the articles, but yeah. So she did regard him as her boyfriend. And the juicy thing is, right, the first time they had sex, she was actually under quarantine. It's 2024 though, during the thing that happened, right? Somehow she had COVID and she was quarantined in an MBS hotel room. Yeah, I think her family should be quite wealthy. MBS hotel room. So 2024 don't need quarantine already, right? Actually, you can just stay
I
at
thought
home
she
and
was in a
rest.
hospital.
No, that one is the flu infection.
Ah.
So the first time is she had positive for COVID, and this guy is so freaking horny that he actually went to visit her at the room where she was alone and had sex with her and took her virginity that day. Yeah. And then after that, she was then hospitalized. In between, I think there were probably other sessions. Okay, I cannot remember, a follower of mine sent me this and said that he's so bad, like he actually took her out of the quarantine room while she was having COVID positive and brought her out to meet his friends. This guy not shy, just like introduced his underage girlfriend to everyone. He's 34, by the way, right? So, and probably spread COVID to everyone. Like zero sense of public responsibility, okay? And then after that, she had a flu infection where she was actually hospitalized at Maui Novena. Yeah, so I think quite rich, yeah. And then at the hospital bed, Instead of bringing a fruit basket like a normal person, okay, he brought his penis and penetrated her again, right? And then this time round, she felt pain in her genitals, so she complained to her mom. And when they tested her, she was tested positive for HPV, sexually transmitted disease. And then she told the mom the truth, and there we have it. Now he's convicted.
Yes.
Yeah. And when the mom was going through this whole case thing, he kept calling her like up to like 18 times in one day. Keep calling her and telling her that he would commit suicide if she goes through with the case, because he would, which she obviously didn't follow through with lah. Yeah. So that's that. Yeah. I guess the question on everyone's mind is, why is the sentence so light?
Okay.
Isn't it statutory rape when you are below 16?
So let me explain the difference between rape, statutory rape, and also sexual penetration of a minor. Okay. So essentially, the age, the categories of age is divided into 3: above 16, then 14 to 16, and below 14. So consensual sex with somebody below 14, okay, or non-consensual, it is statutory rape. Okay, so consent doesn't matter. Even if she's okay, it's still considered statutory rape. Anybody that's under 14. Now, between 14 and 16, it is considered sexual assault, sexual penetration of a minor below 16.
Okay.
Yes, so it's between 14 and 16. Then, beyond 16 is the age where you can give consent to having sex. So anything without consent is considered rape. But at the end of the day, I believe this particular matrix of facts might fit into a few different categories of penal offences. So which one that the not penis offences.
Penal or penal?
Penal.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. Because she laughed and I was like, wait.
Yeah, and then I was like, did I say it correctly? Yes. It might fit into different categories of penal offences. So how it's going to be, how the prosecution will decide to charge will really depend on the factual matrix of the matter, right?
Say penal offences again.
Penal offences. Yeah.
Okay, I get it now. Yes. Okay. So then I guess that's the definition of rape. But actually there is many definitions, right? Like for example, in the Left case, it's like sexual assault via penetration, and then he's also charged with. Is there rape? No, there's no rape. Wait. Yes, there is.
There is a rape charge.
There is a rape charge, right?
2 counts of rape, 1 count of sexual assault by penetration, and 1 count of outrage of modesty.
So that's my question, right? 2 counts of rape, meaning what? Why is there 2 counts? Meaning for the Left case, this one is Left case, they had sex twice?
2 acts.
Means twice.
Different acts, yeah.
In one night, twice lah.
It could be. It really depends on how the charge is framed, which I don't have access to.
Okay.
So likely it would have been 2 separate acts of sex. Yeah.
Okay. And then 1 count of sexual assault by penetration. What does that even mean?
It means that it's sexual assault by any other way than a penis.
So
it could be
maybe finger her
or toy.
Maybe, or toy.
Correct.
Okay.
Let me just double check on that.
And then
and these are just with the basis that there's no consent involved.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then 1 count of outrage of modesty, which just now I was discussing with Kate also. I feel it's honestly a bit lame to put this charge on top of the rape charge, because if you are going to be raping someone, you will definitely touch her. What? I mean,
but they are separate acts.
Right.
Yeah, separate acts.
Okay.
Yes.
So the more things you do, the more charges you can be liable for.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So let's talk about like the definition of like rape. Rape is only considered rape if there is a penis and a vagina involved. Yes. Must be penis and vagina.
Correct.
Penis and other orifices?
No.
That's quite interesting because it raises up maybe questions of like maybe same-sex situations, right?
Yes.
Let's say female and female or male and male.
Yeah.
Like would rape be considered the term to use in those situations?
Okay, so now I have the law before me. Like essentially,
look at her with her whole stack of like loyally.
Sorry, old people, I cannot read from the screen.
Do you do the squinting thing where you like take out your 老花?
I just read like that. Yeah. Okay. So essentially, rape, the most fundamental definition of rape is penis and vagina. Okay, without her consent, or below 14, regardless of consent. Okay. Then there is also another definition of rape, which is that he uses his penis to penetrate the anus of the or mouth of another person without their consent, or below 14 with or without consent.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So that is considered rape.
Okay.
So my question to that would then be, like, in situations whereby maybe it's a female person that's taking advantage of someone else, can that ever be considered
Yeah,
rape?
like female
Yes.
on men. Like, yeah.
Yes, so this has been classified. Okay, it is not considered rape, but they have classified it under another category called sexual assault involving penetration.
Okay.
Yes, so it involves a person sexually penetrating with a part of their body or something else into the other person's vagina or anus or mouth.
So, a woman can sexually assault by penetration a
Yes.
man,
Yes.
but cannot rape a man. But essentially, will the punishment be the same? It's just another name.
It's just another name.
Okay.
Yeah, but the
Okay.
punishment both is up to 20 years with fine or caning.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
but for women there's no caning lah.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to go back to the Ian Fang case, because you mentioned caning, and I think when I mean, obviously it's a hot topic that a lot of people are discussing, and I guess when it came out, I think the same day or the day after the Left case, okay, so a lot of us were comparing the sentences, and I guess the question of why wasn't Ian caned, you know, that came up, right? So maybe when looking at his case, what can you offer us in terms of perspective as to why that wasn't
Okay.
a sentence that he got?
So let me explain. The most fundamental thing is that a judge can only a judge can only mete out sentences that are prescribed by the statute. Okay, so under the statute, if you have consensual sex with a minor between 14 and 16, it's only imprisonment up to 10 years. Caning is not actually in the
but
statute.
you see, up to 10 years is quite long, but he got 40 months only. Oh.
So you need to look at the entire factual matrix. I think one big factor is that they did it with consent.
Right.
Yeah, she was not an unwilling party. He didn't force her. He didn't what. So that is
The 10 years is for people who do it without consent.
I would
right?
say the 10 years would be people who. It would be the most aggravating of
Like maybe
circumstances.
you beat the person.
and maybe you
or-
do it to a lot of people.
Oh, okay, got it.
You
got
put
it.
them in fear of death, or you put them in fear of someone else's death,
Oh.
or you threaten them with hurt.
Or maybe you are also their grandfather, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So those are aggravating factors.
I
Right.
see.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay.
So, I guess one of the things that was brought up in conversations with my friends also was that some say, Ian pleaded guilty and Lev didn't plead guilty. Does pleading guilty affect the charge that you get? I mean, affect the sentence that you get?
Yes, absolutely. So there is this guideline, right, as to if you plead guilty at the earlier stage, it indicates there's a show of remorse.
Yeah.
Then you get like maybe 20% of your sentence.
Right.
Correct.
That's so interesting, because isn't the crime like the punishment for the crime itself and not how remorseful you feel?
No, because if you are remorseful and then you plead guilty at the earlier stage, you are conserving the police resources,
Yeah,
the
you don't
AGC's
waste the
resources.
judge's time.
Right.
Yeah, then you are remorseful, you immediately say, okay, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. So this gives the judge a reason to lower your sentence.
Honestly,
Understand.
if you
Okay.
ask me, I feel like this system is kind of unfair. I think I said this before also. I think now that I'm an adult, right, I realize that how the whole thing works is really quite unfair, especially to poor people. Okay, so like let's say for example now you did a crime, but not everything in the crime that they accuse you of. It could be like maybe they say you did A, B, C, but you did only A. Then how? If you don't plead guilty to A, B, C charges, you have to go and fight like 2 of the charges, right? And that's a separate lawsuit. You also have to engage a lawyer to go and fight it. Or if you are not guilty at all, right, you want to fight it, number one, it takes years. And the newspaper would have already said that this person is accused and charged of this thing. Everyone would already think that, let's say I'm accused of rape, I'm innocent, right? I go and plead not guilty. I'm placing a gamble, because if I go and fight this suit, now the prosecution says, okay, if you plead guilty, you get 10 years, okay? If I plead non-guilty, okay, and I fight and I fail, they might give me 20. So what do? Do I waste my money and try and bankrupt myself in the process and could possibly get 20, or do I just plead guilty and say fine, I'm innocent, I just get 10?
Right.
You know, so this system is a little bit like sad lah for people who are innocent, I feel.
The benefit of this system, as has been argued by certain people, is that it forces people who have done what they have done to just faster plead guilty, as opposed to wasting everybody's time.
Right.
Yes.
But what about people who didn't do what they say that we did, or like they...
No, but I agree with you. One particular case that highlights your point is, do you remember the CAG group, the Carl Liu,
No.
They accused their helper of stealing their things.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it was like after, I think, 4 years of legal proceedings before she was acquitted.
Yeah.
You know, her life is at a standstill for 4 years.
Yeah.
She cannot move on. She cannot go back home properly, or
Yeah.
basically her life is a standstill. There's a cloud over her head for 4 years. And eventually she was acquitted.
Yeah.
You know, so
And this whole 4 years, everyone thinks that you are guilty also, right? So it's
and
a bit...
if she didn't have a pro bono lawyer helping her out, do you think she can afford 4 years of legal fees?
There's no way lah. She
Exactly.
would have just pled guilty and got it over and
Exactly.
done with. Yeah, so that's why I feel like this is a little bit unfair in that sense. So let's move on to our next case, which is the Left Panilov case. Sorry, what's his name again?
Panilov.
Panilov. Left
Yes.
Panilov case. And this one is he is still going to plead. Like, he is appealing, right?
Yes.
So he has been charged and he's charged guilty. So he's already gone through one trial session. I think that his case probably happened in like maybe 2020 or something. It's a long time ago already.
Yes.
And only now the results came out. So he's charged as guilty, charged with 11 years. But he is appealing, right?
Yes, he's
So I'm
appealing.
a bit confused. Is he appealing for innocence or is he appealing for a reduction in sentence? Because when I look at the articles, it seems like they are saying that he's appealing for a reduction in the sentence.
No, as I understand it, he's appealing the entire conviction.
Okay.
Yes.
So, like, his case is currently heard by what? Like,
No,
High Court?
So
and then-
currently I believe his case is in High Court.
High
so
Court.
he's going for Court of Appeal. Let me double check. Yes, Justice Pang, correct.
Okay.
Yes,
then
he was
now
convicted
he-
by a High Court judge. Yes. So
And then once more, he will go to a
Court of Appeal.
Court of Appeal. And if he fails there, it's final already.
Correct.
Okay, so he
Can-
has one more chance, basically.
Right. But in a case of an appeal, right, can the sentence actually increase even more? Or
Yes.
Why?
But it seldom happens.
Okay.
It seldom happens. Yeah.
Why? Why does it seldom
No,
happen?
maybe because the Court of Appeal judges have relooked the case, they relooked the evidence, and they found that the sentence that was meted out by the court of the lower, a judge of the lower court is not sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah, insufficient. So they'll raise it lah. But this is very, very unusual.
But isn't it like what you say? You show a complete lack of remorse. You go and appeal, waste everyone's time again. Shouldn't your sentence increase even more?
At the end of the day, how much the sentence is given, it really depends on the crime and the aggravating factors or the mitigating factors.
Right.
A show of remorse, yes, it reduces the sentence, but I don't think a lack of remorse will actually increase the sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that means like you, in the first place, you plead not guilty, you're already not
Right.
remorseful. You cannot be even more unremorseful than that. Something like that.
No, it's more like if you plead guilty, it's a show of remorse, then you get a discount. Then you don't get a discount if you don't plead guilty and
so
you
it's
don't have a
already
show of
max
remorse
already
lah. Yeah
lah.
lah.
Okay,
It's not
saying
an
you waste-
aggravating factor, right?
It's not like you waste more time, then you get even more kind of thing lah. Okay.
Actually, could you help explain to our audience what are aggravating factors and mitigating factors and how that impacts sentencing also? The
No, an
definition.
aggravating factor essentially means that you committed this particular crime, and because of this factor, it makes it more serious than it actually make the whole situation more
Okay,
serious.
I know.
And,
This is my Hermione Granger hand. Like, for example, aggravating factor in S. Iswaran's case is that he's a public figure. So when he go and take bribe,
Right.
he kena worse than normal person taking bribe because he should be setting an example to other people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good job. Need a clap.
Yeah.
And then the mitigating factor will be the opposite side of that.
So mitigating factor very easy. I go and steal a loaf of bread. Then the mitigating factor is that, because
Your
I'm so
Oliver
hungry.
twist.
Yes, I never eat for like 10 days, right?
Right.
And I really need the bread.
Yeah.
Or I stole it for my child who is starving, something like that lah. Mitigating
I
factor.
understand.
That's
Okay,
a
okay.
mitigating factor.
Yes.
Okay. Or like, for example, in the case where the father killed his twin sons
Yes,
with
yes, yes.
autism, right? Mitigating factor is he was driven crazy by the whole stress.
He was
Right.
suffering
and
from
every-
mental illness.
Yes, like
Correct,
things
correct.
like that. Okay.
Okay, so like let's draw it back to the left case, right?
Yeah,
So
first, we need to talk
Oh.
about the details of the case because in case people don't know
Understand.
what is going on.
Yeah.
So we need to explain to the audience in case they're like, what case, what are you talking about?
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
but it's very important that we have to be extremely careful when we talk about this case because as Kate mentioned, it is still going through the appeal,
Yes.
which means that the second judgment hasn't come out yet, right?
Correct.
So there's this thing called sub judice, which is that the media or anyone cannot, why you laugh?
no, I'm just like of
Okay.
course we have to go through
we
this.
have
Yeah.
to. It's very sad lah. Okay, so we cannot discuss anything that points to whether guilty, not guilty. Okay, all we can do is to lay out the details that have already been reported in the newspapers. Okay, and I also I posted a Instagram story asking for more details to come in from people who know the case. So I did get some more details, but I cannot say because Kate says I will be summoned for sub judice, so I will not. So instead, what we will do today is to lay out the facts for people in the what was already reported in newspaper articles. But what is very interesting is when you look at the newspaper articles, right, the recent ones that talk about the Left case after Ian Fang's case came out, right, very, very few details. All it says convicted of rape, that's it. And not much, does it met on Tinder, all this. But for those of you who have been following the case from before, the previous newspaper articles were quite interesting and they had more details. So today we lay out all of the details.
Sure.
So what happened was the two met on Tinder. The girl, okay, she is, I think he's 24 at that time. I think 24, I cannot remember about that. The girl is 30 years old, that one I remember. Okay, so the girl is 30 years old, they met on Tinder, and apparently on Tinder, I think he stated that he's a script writer or something. And so she wants to be an actress or model, or she wants to go into script writing. So they met up to discuss script writing. I think they went on a date to like a bar or something. Okay, and when the place closed, the date place shut for the night, they decided to go back to his place to continue the discussion on the script. Okay, and he rode a motorbike. Okay, all this is already on the news. He rode a motorbike, and for some reason, she took a Grab separately from him to go to his place. They met up at his place where there are two roommates in the house with him. So he's in a rental place, right? Two roommates are staying together with him in the house, and they were in the house. And then they went to the bedroom, okay, where they started to talk and discuss about the script. His bedroom. And according to her, said something about she had to sit on the bed because the room was very cluttered. Okay, and she sat there and maybe they discussed the thing a bit or whatever. I can't remember that. Then he supposedly forcefully kissed her, and the sex act happened. Okay, yeah, the woman said he suddenly leaned in and kissed her on her lips, but she told him no and gathered her things to leave. And I think there was also something that he said, something like he felt that it was consensual because she was tapping his thigh or like touching his thigh.
Touching his leg and stroking his... Tapping his leg and stroking his thigh.
Okay, yes, yeah. Okay, so he asked her for, after they had sex, he asked her for her address, okay, which I guess she gave. And he booked a car on the Gojek app for her to go home. After that, he said he messaged her, okay, messaged her to ask if she reached home safely, and she replied, all is good, okay. And he said that he subsequently did not reply to her because her interest in morbid jokes was not in line with his sense of humor. Okay, and then the judge, Justice Pang, said he found the woman to be an unusually convincing witness who gave a detailed and textured account that was internally and externally consistent. I don't understand, but okay. And yep, I think that is it. Oh, also found that he is not a credible witness. Okay, so then he was charged with 11 years and I don't know how many strokes of cane.
12.
12? Oh my god.
Yeah.
11 and a half years.
11 and a half years.
And 12 strokes of the cane.
Yeah.
So I guess one question I have is, based on your understanding of how sentencing goes for rape cases, like is his sentence more intense or more like tough than usual sentencing for similar cases? Because I think when the news came out, right, all of us were quite surprised that it's actually quite heavy. What is your opinion?
But isn't it up to 20 years for rape cases, right? So
I guess
11 and a half seems somewhat in the middle.
We were comparing with the Ian Fang case. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, you cannot compare an orange with an apple. It's completely separate and under different statutory provisions.
Okay.
Yeah, so then second of all, what has been stated in the papers is actually not a complete picture of what happened. We don't know. A lot of detail definitely left out.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to wait for the judgment to see whether this sentence is a fair
So
sentence
the judgment is not out yet.
It's not out yet.
So
Okay.
because the judge actually made a judgment, so the judge will actually come up with what, like a
Written
why I made
grounds.
my judgment kind of thing. So they do that for all cases.
Not all cases, only cases that are of public interest or is going for appeal.
Right.
Okay. So usually how long does it take for this thing to come out?
It really depends on the judge's schedule.
Wait, so why does the media get only some parts of the information?
Yeah, where they
'Cause
get it from?
Isn't it kind of then not in public interest that we don't know the full details and then we start speculating and then actually it's not really helpful to the case?
The media's role, I would think, is simply to report what was given to them. So what it appears to have been that they were provided with the prosecution's case. I'm not sure if they managed to get
the
the defense's narrative.
Right.
And also I'm unsure whether they were allowed to go into the trial.
When we look at the sentence, there was one part in the news article I was reading also that, his lack of remorse actually warranted a significant upward calibration of the sentence, which I guess means that because he is not remorseful, like they gave him a harsher punishment. Is that the correct way to interpret this? Yeah.
This is not what the judge said. This is actually what was said by the prosecution. The prosecution submitted to the court that
he wants to
the
ask for
sentence
more.
should be longer because
this
he
guy
didn't have a show of remorse.
Right.
Or rather, he showed a lack of remorse. It's not neutral. Yeah.
But I think it's 你在讲废话, you get what I mean? Like, because as long as I'm fighting prosecution's case, means I'm not pleading guilty, means definitely I'm showing a lack of remorse. Then why do you even say
Right,
yeah,
right.
but I mean,
I guess by
if I'm
you're
saying,
saying,
if I'm saying I'm innocent, I'm definitely showing lack of remorse. Why would I have remorse when I'm innocent? Does that make
Right.
sense? So
I guess-
that's what he's pleading for, right?
In this case particularly, I think I was reading the case because I was really quite interested. Like, how come the sentence was like that?
Why are you so interested?
Because he's one banana. Like, it's just like, oh, okay.
Ex-wa banana.
Yeah, ex wa banana.
Yeah.
So I guess when I was looking at the case, one was the fact that he tried to get a new passport without informing his case officer.
Yeah.
And then tried to leave the country and then got arrested at the
Yeah,
airport.
yeah.
That was so dramatic for I was
I
like,
know,
for what's
right?
up? And then the other one was subjecting the victim to like what they call a marathon.
yeah.
Like a trial.
It prolonged his trial unnecessarily by subjecting the victim to a marathon 13 days of
Yes.
cross-examination.
Which I'm actually quite confused about that. Like, how can someone increase the duration of the cross-examination? I'm quite curious about that, actually.
So this is what the prosecution submitted. The prosecution said that there was repeated questioning of the victim on areas that the defense had already canvassed.
Right.
So I already asked already, then I keep asking.
Okay,
That-
so
okay.
I have a follow-up question to that, which is, I guess when we look at it, there's two things, right? One is like credibility of the person, and number two is consistency of their story. Like, can't this be argued that like, oh, he's just trying to get a consistent response in that maybe after being asked like 2 to 3 times, you answer, like you slip up and you
Different,
answer
yeah,
wrongly,
correct.
right?
Okay, so consistency and inconsistency, right? You have to look at the thing as a whole from the start of the investigation until the trial. So the inconsistency generally is in relation to the statements this person has made at the start of the investigations, the statement this person made to other people while the situation was happening, versus what she actually says in trial. So if those past statements are inconsistent with the statement that she made or he made in trial, then this is inconsistent lah. I mean,
so
we
it's
don't,
not like what you said 15 minutes ago. It's not what you say now.
that
Like
can be, it can be that, but then generally we are not, as defense lawyers, we don't actually go there and like, hey, you gotta do this now. Then
Like
10 minutes
gotcha
later, hey,
you.
you gotta do this now. You know, we're not trying to make you slip up by virtue of because you are making a mistake, right?
it.
We want it to be a very substantive
Right.
inconsistency.
I have been
Right.
so misled by all the legal drama shows because I feel like they always catch people like this, right?
It's not like I ask you to say milk 5 times, then after that I ask you what do cows drink, then you say milk that
Right.
kind, you know.
Yeah.
We must remember this, what has been said about the repeated questioning and the marathon and the prolonging of the trial unnecessarily was submitted by the prosecution. It is not the judge who has said that you have done this, you have done that. Yeah.
So the prosecution will
say
take
that.
what they can get lah, basically,
Yeah, so the
right?
prosecution
Yeah.
definitely will say that. Then the defense will say, well, you have said law, but I needed to do this because...
Correct.
Right,
I needed to
okay,
blah, blah,
Okay,
blah."
speaking of that, I also got another question. Okay, can we bring this back again? The unusually what? Okay,
Unusually-
so what does it mean when Justice Pang said that she found he, right? It's a guy.
Yes.
Okay, Justice Pang found the woman to be an unusually convincing witness who gave a detailed and textured account that was internally and externally consistent. I got 3 questions.
Yes.
What do you mean by unusually convincing? Number 2, what does it mean to give a textured account? Number 3, what is internally and externally consistent? What's internal, what's external?
Yes.
You're just convincing. Why? How do you become unusually convincing? Means the usual person is not convincing?
It just means that your story is very convincing lah.
Like super convincing.
Convincing beyond a usual standard.
Oh.
Which is what?
Yeah, which is what? It's very confusing, okay? This judge is very confusing.
Like, so
No.
maybe
This
she
is a
provided.
standard
test.
test.
This
Like-
is a standard test for situations where sexual assault situations where it's
He said, she
the
said.
prosecution wants to secure a conviction on the basis of purely the victim's testimony. So the test for this is that the victim has to be unusually convincing,
Right.
and how it is convincing in a way that it is internally and externally consistent. Internally consistent means that the details that this person says match up, and then externally consistent means that the surrounding objective facts match up with what she has said.
Right.
Like for example, she said there was a lamp and there is actually a lamp there.
Or she said that the room is very messy, then the room indeed is very messy, right? And
I
there's nowhere
see.
else to sit.
Okay.
So-
So
I guess when it comes to victims and being.
wait, you haven't answered my third.
Oh, okay.
What was the
Please.
third sentence?
How do you give a textured account?
I think this is just an English thing. It's not a legal thing. Textured is just a.
It's very
A lot of details, is it?
Yeah, I suppose it has a
Descriptive
lot of
words.
details and it's very
you a-
descriptive.
Okay.
It paints a picture, you know.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So make sure next time if you go to court, you must be unusually convincing, give textured detail, and be internally and externally
But I do hope you're not.
Consistent.
consistent.
I do hope you're not a victim
Of course
sexual
not. Of course
assault.
not.
Yeah.
Of course not. But
Or the other way around.
Of course not. That one even more. But I guess my question is, like, when a lot of victims feel like it's intimidating to even go into a situation like this. So if let's say we were to give them advice on how to approach it,
Yes.
because if let's say this is a case whereby having a very detailed account of what happened can be seen as a factor that can help you. Like, is this an advice that we'll give people? Like, if something happens to you, like really note down the detail of every single
Of course
thing.
lah. Hey, you never see those like criminal law like books, right? It's like they call it the evidence where it's like on the spot it happened one. Like Raisha can't stand the text that say the
Contemporaneous
yes,
evidence.
that.
Right.
Okay, so you go home, immediately write in your diary, this thing happened to me, etc. What time? Contemporaneous evidence.
Right.
Immediately after the thing happened, you text your mother, hi, this thing just happened to me.
No.
Okay.
Contemporaneous?
I think the first thing that happens if somebody sexually assaults you is to go to the police.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I can tell you that in a lot of sexual assault cases, it is an established fact and accepted fact that you cannot judge a victim by their response because
Yeah.
they are being traumatized.
That's true.
That's-
Yeah. So while we can say like you should be doing this, you should be doing that, but a lot of times. Victims, they are not in the space of mind to
They
think
don't
clearly
consider so many things
exactly
lah,
what
yeah.
they should be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
But definitely go to the doctor, get a medical
Go to the
examination.
police first.
Yeah, police first, then go
Yes.
to the doctor.
The police will tell you what to do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think a lot of times like maybe they also like scared to go to the police.
But of
first.
course, if you are injured, go to the doctor first lah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so do you have anything else you want to ask?
I think I just wanted to point out also, other than being traumatized, like some of them might not also realize what just happened to them until having clarity of mind, maybe even with time after, right? So that's something to consider also. Yeah.
And maybe also they, even if they know what happened to them, they may not want to make a big deal out of it. Maybe they want to internally absorb it, right? They may not want to go through a trial. If everyone know what happened, they may feel it's like sense of shame. They don't want the parents to find out or whatnot. I guess
And
these
you-
are all considerations.
You have to keep repeating your story
Yeah.
over and over again.
And people will put holes in it.
And investigations take a long time.
right.
This
So
thing
it
is just hang on
it is a
over your
very, very
head.
traumatizing experience.
So you
lah.
need to have the courage to make the police report and to continue with it, but it is very, very tiring.
Okay, so I have two more questions, which is number one, where is this onus of proof? Like when it comes to defamation cases, we know that US law and Singapore law is different, right? The US one, you just have to, the onus is on who?
US one onus is on the plaintiff.
Plaintiff. So
Yes.
for example, now I say Kate is a murderer, right? That's defamation, right? So it's on me to prove that you are a murderer.
No, it's on me to prove that I'm not a murderer.
Okay, so you
Yes.
need to go and prove that you're not, which is quite hard, because how would you prove that, right? I guess. Is it harder, right? No.
Yeah, how to prove?
Okay, so in Singapore, it will be the opposite. I have to prove that you are indeed a murderer. Is it? No.
Okay, actually, let me just rephrase. So in the US, right,
Yes.
the burden of proof is on the complainant. So I complain that somebody defamed me.
Yeah.
Then I have to prove that I didn't murder the person. And how do I prove I didn't murder the person? Then maybe I just say on this date, this time I was with him. Right?
Okay.
Right? Okay, so but in Singapore, the burden of proof is reversed. So
Right.
if person A sues me. Okay, if I say you go and
Okay,
do
me
plastic
and
surgery.
you lah. Okay.
Okay, I go say you do plastic surgery.
Okay.
Then you say I never. Then I have to
Prove that.
I have to prove that you did plastic surgery.
Okay. So when
Yeah.
it comes to rape cases like this, the burden of proof is on who?
Okay, so once again, these are two separate matters. In that, defamation is a civil matter.
Right.
Okay, this is a criminal matter. So criminal matter, the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove their. Okay, sorry. Let me just repeat. So these two situations are completely different. Defamation cases are civil in nature, so it's between two private parties.
Right.
When it comes to crime, it's between a prosecution and a defense lawyer. Okay, so the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused did what he has been accused of doing. Yeah. So the test is beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay.
So
I see.
in particular, in sexual assault cases like what we have discussed, the victim's testimony must be unusually convincing,
Right.
and it must be internally and externally consistent to the extent that it is beyond reasonable doubt.
I see. Okay, so technically, in Left's case, the defense lawyers don't need to prove that they had consensual sex. They simply need to prove that she is not even telling the truth. She's not truthful.
I think in Left's case, there is.
They just need to make sure that she doesn't seem to be very convincing.
They need to prove that there is a reasonable doubt
Right.
in her case, in her
Okay,
story.
I understand now. Okay,
Yes.
so that is how it works lah. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yeah. We already talked about, like accusations of we talked about real rape victims, what they are going through. Let's talk about the reverse right now, okay, to be fair, because I feel that, when we talk about rape victims, yes, they're going through a lot. It's very difficult for them to have the courage to go and, report a case, and it usually makes the suffering way worse for them to have everyone know what's going on in order for them to even get justice. But what about the opposite case where there are false accusations of rape? Right, and I think that this is also a topic that maybe we should talk about. Have there been other famous cases of false accusations of rape?
Okay,
in
I think
Singapore?
first and foremost, we need to preface this with the fact that false allegations are few and far between.
Right.
Okay, so ultimately, the first approach when it comes to a rape victim's complaint is that we believe them first. Okay, then only subsequently we investigate, and then on the
I must
basis
stop
of
you
their
there. I don't
complaint.
agree with that. I believe that there are probably quite a few of these rape accusation cases. How I know is because I don't know a single rape victim, but I do know two guys who have been falsely accused of rape. Yes. So I think that what we see in the news of false accusations of rape is not what people are actually being charged with. So, so I guess we can talk about the procedures of rape accusations in the first place. Okay, so talk about my two friends' story. One of them is, and both are my actual friends, not acquaintance, friend, that kind. Okay,
So it's a true story.
True story, okay. Had sex with a girl while she was on a break with a guy. She went back to the boyfriend, then she told him that you don't pay me how much, I'll get my boyfriend to beat you up. Okay, and then he said, I'll go away. And then she went to accuse him of rape. Okay, and then luckily there were phone chat conversations and all that to show that no rape actually happened. Okay, this is case number one. The police dropped the case, didn't even charge him. So he didn't need to hire a lawyer, nothing. Okay? Number two case, okay, is another friend of mine who had sex with a girl working at a foreign dance club. Okay? Okay, and then the girl is really in love with him, but he's not interested to have a friends beyond benefit kind of relationship with her.
Right.
And he ghosted her after a while because she was psycho. Okay, so there were a lot of phone conversations where she's texting him, asking where he is, stalking him basically. Okay, but the police actually did set a case, I guess. I don't know what is the word for it, investigate him. So he had to hire a lawyer. Luckily his family is quite wealthy, and after looking through all of the conversations, the case was dropped. I don't know whether it's dropped by the police or dropped by the girl or whatever, but dropped. Okay, so these two cases didn't make it into the news. Nobody knows because it's not public and it didn't go the full route, right? So to say that fake accusations are few and far between, I don't think that it's fair. What is fair to say is that those that we know of, the actual cases that go to trial, where it's open public trial, maybe in that case it's few and far between. But for those superficial cases that have been just dropped, nobody knows about it. Would you think it's a fairer observation in that case?
Yeah lah, we don't know what we don't know lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can only do, research can only be done on what is reported, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but what I mean when I say that we must believe victims
Yes.
first is that the nuance is that I'm saying we believe the victims when they come to complain to us first. So for example, a victim goes to the police and they say that this thing happened. Believe them first. Then only upon investigation, then you hear the other sides of the story, then you start to, you unravel what actually happened.
Correct.
Based on what everybody says. But I think it should be core and it should be fundamental that when they first make their allegations to the police, it should be accepted without hesitation.
Right. The
Okay.
same way that if somebody comes to report a case of robbery, you wouldn't be like, are you sure you got robbed?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So it shouldn't be like that. It should be you
So-
like understanding
Yeah.
and like
So believing doesn't mean that you agree, but you accept, and also you do not dismiss.
Correct.
Is that correct?
And also, it does not mean that the victim's testimony will be above and beyond the accused testimony for the entire investigation.
Right.
It just means that, okay, I listen with an open mind, right? And then I'll ask the accused for his version of events, and then we commence our investigation based on, or not we lah, the police commence their investigation based on the evidence that has been produced.
So what
Yeah.
is the procedure like? Let's say, for example, now
Yes.
I am a victim and I go to a police station and state my case. What happens next? What's the whole procedure like?
Okay, so once you go to the police and you make a case, the police is obligated to commence an investigation on the matter. So the police will collect evidence, the police will go and contact the accused and ask his version of events. And
Will
if
they
he has
arrest him immediately?
it depends on the situation lah, based on the report and then the circumstances of the case. Is this person a local? Is it a foreigner? Right? If he's a foreigner, then this person is going to fly away already. Then the police will faster go and arrest him first
okay,
lah.
okay. But not necessarily always.
Not necessarily.
Okay, okay. So sometimes they will carry out an investigation at their own time and then go
Correct.
interview
Right.
him and all that.
Correct.
And then after they take his statement, right? They take my
They'll take
statement
They'll
first.
obvious. So when the victim first makes the report, then they'll take a statement from the victim, right? And then based on that statement, they'll go and do their investigations and get a statement from the
other
accused
side.
as well.
Okay. And then they will go and investigate the place where it happened and all that.
Yeah,
too?
then all the DNA or like any semen, stuff like that.
Okay, okay. And then after that, this is all collated and then
This is all collated, and then they will do a recommendation to the AGC as to whether
To charge or
they
not
think
charge.
there's a crime or not.
Okay.
Right? Then the AGC will look at the evidence and they will decide whether to charge or not and under what provision to charge.
okay, so there will definitely be an investigation. So my
Yes.
friend's one died at the cradle, right? The false accusation. So that means that the police didn't make an recommendation to AGC to charge.
Because sometimes it's just open and shut.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is obviously not true. Okay, so you can ask your question.
Yes, I mean, when listening to all these, right, I'm like, wow, actually, there's really a lot of like resources being involved.
Yes.
So when it comes to false accusations, right, like, are there consequences to that? Like, can you also get charged for making false allegations?
Yes. So you remember the case where the helper was accused of stealing her employer's stuff?
Mm.
Yeah, so she went through 4 years of legal proceedings before she was finally acquitted,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
But then subsequently, the person who made the complaint against her, I believe he was sentenced. Yeah. Yes, for making
Okay,
a false
so
report.
but that is not a rape case, right? I'm talking about specifically for rape cases when you make a false rape accusation. Like for example, the doctor case, right? We talk about doctor case. Can we do a little introduction about doctor case first? You can go ahead.
Okay, so essentially this doctor was accused of molesting and also raping one of his patients.
Okay.
Right? Eventually after appeal...
While she's unconscious, right?
No, she was not unconscious.
I thought the accusation was when she was like,
No, she
Oh,
was
no.
awake.
Oh.
Yeah, she was awake. And then
Oh.
she said that she felt something poke into her vagina. Yeah.
Ah.
So eventually he was acquitted lah.
Yeah.
Right? Because of her version of events was not consistent, and also he managed to adduce evidence that he had erectile dysfunction. But this came after many
Years
a very long legal
Yeah.
proceeding, and also he spent, I believe, he
Maybe
spent
4 years or
$600,000 in legal fees just to
Oh.
get an acquittal.
right.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
in the meantime, was he still able to practice as a doctor? Or
I
he-
shouldn't think so.
Right. So
Yeah.
he couldn't even work as a doctor the whole time. And this whole time it was a false accusation. What happened to that girl?
So
After ruining this guy's life.
the thing is, we wouldn't know because we don't know the identity of the girl. So
But-
if any proceedings were commenced against her, we wouldn't know.
Okay.
But there is a provision where it states that you cannot make a false police report for anything.
Right. I mean, if the prosecution decides to charge her with perjury or whatever this is, right? Wouldn't it kind of like slap themselves in the face because you are the one who charged the guy in the first place?
I mean, the prosecution has to do their job on the basis of the evidence that's placed before them, right?
Right.
But if it is eventually found out through the course of the legal proceedings, right, that this person is actually innocent,
Right.
then
They have to
I
still
don't
do
see
it.
how they are slapping themselves in the face, because
But
for
you
example,
are the one who charged in the first place.
no, for
what?
example, they initially they wouldn't know that this guy
Right.
had erectile dysfunction, right? Now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe there was a nurse that was there to
I don't recall
don't
nurse,
think-
but I think the main
soft like noodle. That's what his
Yes.
wife said. So imagine
Yes.
having go through this trial and having everyone knows that you are so limp that you are soft like a noodle. What kind of noodle though? I mean,
is it al
mee
dente?
sua is definitely worse than
Oh, I don't want to talk about his
al
penis.
dente linguine, right? Or fusilli, technically a noodle, not that bad, right? Mee sua, terrible. Angel hair pasta,
A
horrific.
fusilli shaped penis is
Huh?
horrifying.
A duck's penis is
Yes.
that shape. Yeah.
I recall that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, what other cases are there of these false accusations?
We can revisit like when this friend's case, right? Like, whereby we talk about the examples you've given is like, oh, they went to trial, everything. But I'm so curious as to like when this friend's case whereby it gets stopped, at the earliest stage after the police investigations. But even then, the police also had to work on it.
Yes,
It's still a waste of resources if it's a lie, right?
Yeah.
So even if it's a very early stage situation like this, is there consequences to making false reports?
It is a crime to make a false police report, okay?
Okay.
But whether or not it proceeds to being charged and being sentenced is another thing altogether. And it really depends on the circumstances of the matter.
Okay,
Right?
understand. Okay.
So, but in the doctor's case, he wasted what, 600,000?
Yeah.
$600,000 and 4 years of his career, right? And also the amount of money that he would have earned during this amount of time where his reputation is that he can file for a civil suit
Yes.
against that girl and
Correct.
claim for damages, right? He
Right.
could.
Yes,
And
you can.
but then he will have to go through the whole process of proving that she lied again. It will be a fresh case. It won't be based on that previous criminal proceeding.
Yes. But one of the major evidence that he can produce in his civil court is the judgment
Right.
that the judge found that this girl is lying,
Right.
right?
But it will not be a completely new case.
It is a completely new case.
I'm saying this because we know about the OJ trial where he
Okay.
was innocent, right? Proven innocent.
Yes.
Yeah. But then in the civil case, he was proven guilty.
Guilty, correct.
So I'm asking, in this case, are they considering brand new evidence or looking at the previous verdict? If not, why would he have won the civil case?
Understand. So the main difference between a civil and a criminal matter is that the civil matter standard of proof is lower. So you only need to prove on the balance of probabilities that OJ killed this person.
Most likely he killed.
Yeah, more than 50%.
Oh.
Yeah, whereas for a criminal matter, it's beyond reasonable doubt.
I see.
Yeah, so it's much higher threshold to reach.
I see.
I mean, this is the standard in Singapore. Like, I don't know about US, but that should be the explanation.
Okay, but there
Yes.
hasn't been any famous cases of a false rape accuser getting some kind of punishment that we know of in the papers at least.
There is.
There
the,
is?
The Grab lady. The
Okay.
lady. Okay, let me just read that case for you.
Okay.
This one is about a lady who had consensual sex with two of her colleagues, and then she lied that she was raped by them so that her auntie would book her a Grab home.
No freaking way.
So she pleaded guilty to one count of giving false information to a public servant.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and
And she didn't lie that one person raped her. She lied that both raped her at the same time.
she said that two of her colleagues raped her.
Oh.
What was her sentence? Okay, well, in this article, they didn't state the sentence, but anybody who gives false information to a public servant, which means making a police report or like if you declare something wrongly to MOM on purpose, right, all this kind of stuff, then you may be jailed up to 2 years or fined up to $5,000.
Okay, so there is a consequence for doing this.
Right,
So
right.
how long you insist on your lie is an aggravating factor. So you keep insisting on your lie and then make the police go and investigate everybody, waste everybody's time, then that's aggravating. Then your sentence will be higher lah.
Right. Little conclusion, how should we protect ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, we are in an age where, everyone's talking about consent and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I guess what would help maybe our audience is understanding like best practices when it comes to intimate acts, right?
First of all, don't have sex with a person who is visibly drunk,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. If
What
the
if the
person is-
person really wants it?
don't do it, man, because they are drunk. Their judgment is impaired.
Oh.
Yeah, the drunk person cannot give consent.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
What if it's a really sleepy
If they are very
person?
drunk lah.
Like they haven't slept for 48 hours, so they are a bit sad, but they are not drunk.
At the end of the day,
Just
when
sad
They
people
must be
just don't
of
have
sound
that.
mind and
no, at the
clear
end of the
mind.
day, try not to put yourself in these circumstances where you might be falsely accused of rape. For example, with somebody you don't know, right? Or a person who might not remember what happens the next day.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Not
don't-
saying that.
And you shouldn't probably have sex with people who you don't even know. Who might turn out to be psycho, right? Maybe get to know the person a little bit before having sex with the person. I think that's probably a good idea also, right? So actually abstinence.
Oh, is it?
Wait, come to that,
That's the
sorry.
conclusion.
Abstinence is the best. Everyone go and be a monk and a nun.
Yes. Yeah, perfect.
Why we wanted to ask also was because, I mean, the truth is hookup culture is very prevalent
Yes.
today, right? And yes, we can like advocate for abstinence and whatnot, and that's what schools have been advocating for. The truth is, a lot of people will be going out there, will be dating, will be
Yeah.
having one night stands, will be hooking up. So I guess the question is like, when they do so,
Yes.
like what can they do to
I know.
protect?
Okay, you send flirty texts first.
Okay.
Like, I really want to F you good tonight. If the girl replies, can't wait.
It helps, but it's still not good enough. Because during the act, she can say no. And you continue to do it, then still
Okay,
wait.
but that casts some doubt. It will help your case, right?
It will
if
help
you are
a bit
falsely
lah.
okay, we're talking about false accusations here, how to prevent that, right? So at least it will help a little bit, right?
A little bit to show that this girl was attracted to you, yes, but
that's absolutely-
consent can be withdrawn at any time.
Right. There's no way. There's actually no way.
We can look at it from two perspectives. Like one is like, let's say you feel like you've been taken advantage of, or like what are the best practices in those cases? One was to write down everything and note down,
Right.
Go to the
situation.
police immediately.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then like, do we immediately take a stance like, hey, that was you crossing the line or things like that? Like how do you react in situations? Because it's so nuanced, no?
But just make it very, very clear that you have obtained this person's consent.
Okay.
Yeah, just be very, very clear about it.
How, but
And-
if nobody
No-
can prove
no-
it, then how?
Like, do you have it in text?
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly, I don't think there's any best practices because people's perspectives differ, right? So like I might think that I didn't give consent, but to me it might seem like a come on. So the best thing to do is that ensure you have very, very, very clear consent.
Yeah.
Not just like people like smile at you, flirt with you, then you take it as a sign that they consent. No.
Right.
Ask them clearly, are you sure you are okay?
I'm entering now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I guess with that we have come to the end of the episode. Okay, thank you very much for joining us, guys. Anything last words? No?
Nothing further.
Nothing further.
Always
Okay.
ask for consent.
Always
Yeah.
ask for
always ask
consent.
for consent.
Abstinence is the best. Do not have sex with random people that you just meet who might be crazy. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.